Hi guys, welcome back to Just Talking, where I talk at you and you sometimes listen. So today we're doing a history video for Wallace and Gromit's Thrill-O-Matic and its predecessor, the Gold Mine at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, which is a theme park located in the northwest coast of England, and I'll also be doing a review too. And if this taught you anything or you just enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and let's get into the history of the gold mine. So this ride operated between 1971 and 2011. It closed at the end of the 2011 season after the announcement of Aardman's new ride, and this was announced by Amanda Thompson. And of course this was the same year that the Nickelodeon Land area actually opened at the park, so it was a big time for development in the park. And this mine-themed ride was manufactured by Arrow Developments, otherwise known as Aerodynamics, who also designed and manufactured the big one, and it was designed by in-house teams. So the ride featured scenes around, of course, a gold mine, and it was portrayed by pretty basic and restricted movement animatronics, and famously interacted with the Blue Grotto scene from the River Caves, which you can still see now, but of course after Wallace and Gromit's Thrill-O-Matic was put into place, there's now a sort of wooden facade there which has painted on stalactites. And also the Magnolia Cafe. Of course, the Magnolia Cafe did have a variety of different names, such as the Blue Grotto Cafe and also the Magnolia Cafe, and that basically sat at the side of the track for the gold mine ride and looked out onto the icy grotto below, which used to have nice fountains and the music blasting out. So it cost £170,000 in total for the full ride, which I don't think is too bad, because even though its theming wasn't exactly as immersive as it is in most dark rides nowadays, they still actually did theme it pretty well, and also the rock work is pretty impressive too, as you can see, and also some of the machinery, and it was pretty innovative for its time, because of course the motion animatronics we have today in parks such as Disney and across the world, they're a lot more advanced and they didn't have them back then. So, for the history of Wallace and Gromit's Thrill-O-Matic, of course this opened in 2013, which was 2 years after Aardman and the park made an agreement for the ride's construction, and also when the gold mine announced its closure at the end of the 2011 season. It would cost £5.25 million to design and manufacture, not to mention construct as well. And it was manufactured by WGH Transportation Engineering, and they were responsible for the retracking, because the actual layout is just about the same. There's a few little tweaks here and there, such as widening some corners and tucking them in a little bit, but basically they wanted the cars to go a bit faster than they did with the gold mine ride, and they were responsible for making the powered track for the dark ride, and designed by Farmer Attraction Development. And these aren't names I've necessarily heard before, and a lot of people won't have heard before either, but I think they did a very good job on this ride. And of course this ride does feature some sort of restricted movement animatronics, but it doesn't need to be very detailed, and I think it gives it a really nice charm. And of course you have all the great audio playing in there, and I think it's really nice that they've done it the way they have. So the ride features scenes from basically all of the Wallace and Gromit films, which is A Grand Day Out, A Close Shave, The Wrong Trousers, A Matter of Life and Death, and The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. And I'm a pretty big fan of Wallace and Gromit, so of course I couldn't resist myself with going on this ride when it opened, and I go on it every single time, and I just absolutely adore the franchise and also the ride. I think the depiction of it's great. And of course my favourite character is actually Feathers McGraw, which, is pretty different to what people might assume is a favourite character up on the list. I just think he's a really great villain. And of course, for some of the different changes that they've made throughout the years, of course, I haven't done a big overhaul or a refurbishment since 2013, and I don't think they really need to. They just have made some slight tweaks and changes that, if I didn't outline them here, you probably wouldn't have noticed them. So the lights during the small drops, particularly the one after they're booking their holiday to the Cheese Moon, they've been dimmed, and further cladding has been put in so you cannot see during that dark area. And in fact, if you keep your eyes fully open and you're trying to look around, it kind of burns a bit because it's just that dark. And when it initially opened, it was slightly brighter, and that was just because it didn't have all the blackouts on the back of the doors that goes into the drop. It's not a drop, it's more of just a descent. and also you could slightly see some sort of outlines of doors, and now you can't see that whatsoever, and that draws a lot more attention onto the scenes that are going to be round the corner. The scent pods, particularly during the baking scene, have been intensified. So, of course, it doesn't smell exactly like bread, I'll be completely honest with you. It smells a little bit tart, but it's alright. And, of course, I've put them up just mainly because of face mask being on at the minute and the potential of it, but also because you couldn't really notice it beforehand, and until maybe last year when I started turning them up, I didn't actually notice the different smells other than the sort of classic smell that Blackpool always puts into the dark rides to give it that nostalgic scent. And in the final scene where the were-rabbit kind of jumps out at the riders, that's been delayed slightly, so the slippers that are further back in the ride can actually see it. And this is probably the worst choice they've ever made for this ride. I remember when I first went on it in 2013, the front slipper, which is of course the theming of the train cars, when it goes around the corner it's pitch black and then bam, it comes out at you the second you come around the corner. And I suppose it was hitting for the back slipper as well because, you know, it got it round the corner in time for it to have an impact. But now you're kind of going out of that scene before it jumps out, and it kind of lacks, and you can see it stood there because, of course, the doors that go out aren't properly sealed up, so you can see the light coming in from outside. So it kind of misses on that part. And the ending screens have been reduced, and the scenes before that have been moved slightly forwards, which makes the ending a lot less suspicious because when it opened in 2013, there was just a bunch of walls and a load of screens in there that were saying goodbye, and that made it very suspicious and it looked a bit weird. But now the scenes have been moved slightly upwards and there's a lot less screens, and there's only about maybe one or two. I think there might just be one now before the were-rabbit scene. They have not made the train chase scene darker whatsoever, where they're chasing Feathers McGraw through the kitchen on the little toy train, which kind of ruins the vibe because you can actually see Feathers McGraw being caught literally through the doorway. And when I last went on it, it looked slightly darker, and I thought, oh my god, they fixed it. They haven't. In all honesty, what I think they need to do is maybe move the scenes up even further and then maybe wall it off a little bit better in some way. I'm not too sure how they'd be able to do it, but it does ruin the vibe, and I really love that scene in the film, and they have themed it really well, so it could look brilliant if it was properly dark and it was lit up, but of course it doesn't really work like that in the ride. So, for some of my review for this ride, in my opinion, this is an absolutely brilliant dark ride for anyone, not just a family target audience. But in all honesty, I would recommend watching all of the films before riding. You know, not only because the scenes seem a little bit out of place if you go on it without the context, but also sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating having to listen to people get everything wrong. Not like in the queue line, I'm fine with that, but when I'm on a ride trying to enjoy it and there's people asking behind me, what's that? And like, it kind of annoys me a little bit, and I'd like to explain things to people, but that might just be me. But it's one of my pet hates when people queue up for upwards of, you know, an hour, half an hour, and then don't know what they're doing and ruin my experience. It does annoy me a bit. But they do also play the films and the documentaries for the films and also for the ride in the queue line. So of course you can get a bit of context there, but I'd recommend getting the context beforehand, and I'll explain why in a minute. The merchandise for the ride is very high quality. I've got 2 pieces of merchandise from it so far. I have the Feathers McGraw thermal water bottle and also the plush version of him. They're really great quality. They don't wear basically whatsoever from me using it 1,000,001 times. Of course not the plush. The plush is displayed. I'm not using that. But, you know, it is also relatively hard to come by. You can, of course, buy on the Pleasure Beach shop, but I'm not too sure where else you can get it unless it's sold by Aardman themselves. And it's also well themed, but not tacky. You know, like some merchandise goes over the top, but quite a lot of it's particularly the Shaun the Sheep merch, that's quite minimalist. And sometimes the queues can be upwards of an hour long, which is very annoying, and that's why I'm slightly annoyed about the people who don't have context, because I'm stood there for an hour and there's about 6 people who don't know what they're doing on the ride and they don't know what it's about, and it does slightly annoy me, but I wish I could explain it to people. It's like I can't just tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, do you want me to explain all of the films in the franchise? But, you know, I would say definitely get context, because I've been on a ride before where I didn't know what was going on, because I hadn't seen any of like the films, and I was thinking, oh my god, what is happening? And I didn't say anything like, but it was really stressful, and I didn't enjoy myself on it because I was so confused. You know, sometimes when I went to Legoland, I was so confused because when I went, I hadn't actually seen Star Wars yet. Which is disgusting, but yeah, I didn't know what was going on, so I was very stressed out, because I didn't understand anything. So definitely recommend getting the context, because some of the scenes might weird you out a little bit if you don't know what's going on. But the ending at times does, of course, lack the immersion, you know, of course, with the lighting not being correct, and the back slippers do tend to get the best view in this part of the ride. But you know, I can't really complain about that, because if I got on the back slipper and I didn't get a good experience, I would kind of complain. But the thing is then if the front slipper misses out on a lot of things and has to sit awkwardly in a silence for quite a while, that can be a bit annoying. And then again, the back slipper has its pros, its cons, so does the front one. So it's just a matter of where you'd like to be. If you'd like to experience a were-rabbit scene, go to the back, maybe the front row or the back row, it depends. And then if you want to experience like the rest of it, such as like when Victor he's blasting his gun and all the rabbits are coming down from the ceiling and things, that's better on the front slipper, because as you're going through it, they actually start to retreat when you're on the front slipper. So, you know, it really depends. But yeah, that's really it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you didn't mind my complaining, because I'm so sorry. It's just, last time I went, I had to queue for like 2 hours, and it was really stressful because I was one of those people who talked all the way through it, and I could have cried because I'd waited so long and I couldn't hear anything. But yeah, I really do hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you can share your own opinions of the ride in the comments. And yeah, I'm really grateful for all the subscribers, all the support, all the comments I've been getting recently. And make sure to keep it coming, because I really like communicating with you guys. And yeah, this is just talking. Bye bye.